Hello and welcome to Blue Army TV. I'm sitting here after Carlisle have drawn 3-3 at home to Boreham. My first thoughts are a week. A week is all we got as Carlisle fans to be positive. The start of the season was so good. We didn't have the best performance in the world against Woking, but we won against a strong team, and we looked solid and we took our chances. And a lot of people thought, "Here we go. This is the start of something great." And after today, a draw. We've managed to snatch a draw out of the jaws of victory. It feels like a loss. It definitely feels like a loss to me, and it'll feel like a win for those Boreham Wood players. And after couple of years, a really bad couple of years, where a lot of people have correctly assessed that mentality and confidence is a big issue in the squad, we've now got probably one of the biggest hits to the players' confidence you could possibly ever ask for. That first half was absolutely atrocious. I'll say that first. That's my first point. That first half, atrocious. We conceded a goal, and we deserved to concede. I think for that entire first half, Boreham Wood were the better team. We were lumping it up front to Luke Armstrong, Regan Linney, I guess, Adjiboy, not balls behind, but, balls to win headers, it looked like. If you got fast players like Adjiboy and Linney is to a certain extent, you're not putting balls in behind the defence because they're so deep. You're just, you're looking to win headers against two absolute mountains at the back, and none of our front lines particularly tall. If you're going to do that, start with Georgie Kelly. And, we saw the impact from Georgie Kelly at the very first kind of few minutes of the first half. So it was a wrong starting 11 in my opinion. Adjiboy was very poor. And I'm not going to talk about the defence yet because I'm going to get into that. So I'll talk about the goals first. And look, when that change was made and we scored 3 goals in quite quick succession, it looked like, oh my god, we've made changes at half-time that needed to be made, and we've made the right changes. Georgie Kelly's come on, looked absolutely excellent, and then Regan Linney's scored 2. One, I'm not sure it is entirely his goal, possibly an own goal, but then an exceptional goal, a worldie of a finish from Regan Linney. And in the end, it's meant absolutely nothing. Because, and I'll talk about the defence now, I think the attack was completely fine. I think the midfield left a lot to be desired and wasn't existent at any point today, especially in those. I think Embleton was really good, and I haven't complimented Embleton enough. I've complimented him the right amount, but he hasn't really shown his quality the whole time he's been here, and I think he did in that game. I think he really did have a good game, but the two players behind him, particularly Corey Whelan, and it's not often I say Corey Whelan's had a bad game, and obviously McAdam next to him. I think McAdam was. I think he did okay, but he's, neither of those players are traditional number 6s, and I think that's what we're missing. But the big issue today was that back line. And it's almost to be expected. If you come into this season with the same back line that finished League 2 last year as, other than maybe the Morecambe players that weren't even getting played, the worst back line in the league. And I think of backline that didn't really work together. You've changed Archie Davis to what was our second choice last year in Jack Ellis, and I think he's probably the best of the 4. He's the only one out of that back 4 that I think can come away with any kind of confidence. He didn't have a great game. I think he made a few mistakes, especially in the first half. He had a very strange first half and improved in the second, but he's not the one I'm worried about. The other 3 terrify me. Absolutely terrify me, and they were terrible today. That's probably the worst defensive performance I've seen in a long time, and Cameron Harper had a bad game, and I'm concerned about him. I'm concerned whether he's good enough, but the big issue, the huge issue, is those 2 centre-backs. And I've seen a lot of arguing online as to who was the worst of the 2. In my opinion, it's Aaron Hayden, but also in my opinion, it doesn't really matter which one you say, because both were terrible. Both were poor. Both have been poor since they came into the club. And I think it's absolutely naive and almost stupid to come into this season underprepared, having to play those 2 as your starting centre-back partnership. And it's even more insane to me that Terrell Thomas is the captain. You can't. in any world, in my opinion, go into a game with your captain as your worst player. As the player that your team as a whole, and you could see it today, the player that your team as a whole has the least confidence in, and you're giving him the captaincy. I'm not sure who you would give it to instead. I think the only kind of confident player in that team is Regan Linney. And he's certainly the most effective player. So whether you give the captaincy to him, I don't know. I don't know whether you give it to a new signing or not. But there are options. And in my opinion, Terrell Thomas shouldn't be one of those options. And neither should Aaron Hayden, who's been captain for a lot of pre-season and was captain for a while last year. So I don't know whether it's official or not yet, but the captain and vice captain are your two worst players on the pitch there. That needs to change. That needs to change ASAP, incredibly quickly. I'm not sure whether Hayden's the problem, and he kind of doesn't inspire a lot of confidence from Terrell Thomas, or the other way around. And I understand that a lot of the time with centre-back partnerships, if one of them is underperforming, then that results in both of them underperforming, because a lot of defensive work isn't really about individual quality, it's about the relationships you have with the defenders around you. So I don't know whether Hayden's underperforming and that's affecting Terrell Thomas, or Terrell Thomas is underperforming and that's affecting Hayden. I'm not sure. But what I can say is that whatever it is, it isn't working. I wouldn't have Aaron Hayden anywhere near this team. He'd have been one of the first players out the door, in my opinion, if you can get him out the door, because I don't think anyone would want him. I think, look, and it's so upsetting with Aaron Hayden, because the first time he was here, his first stint at Carlisle, when Stephen Presley signed him, and particularly into the Chris Beach era, I think he was one of my favourite players. In fact, no, he was my favourite player. I loved Aaron Hayden. I loved that he was so good defensively. I loved that he was this kind of youngish lad that didn't really have too much ego about him. He just got on with his job. He was a really good defender, so dangerous from set pieces. And he was a fantastic player, and I was absolutely heartbroken when he left us to go to Wrexham. I was. It was that season where the board let Chris Beach down and sold his entire back line that had been really good that season. I think it's irrelevant, but it was Nick Anderton, Bennett, Hayden, and Tanner, and they sold all of them in one summer, and then kind of sent Chris Beach out with his second choice lineup, and then was surprised when it failed. But I was absolutely gutted when Aaron Hayden left, and I was so excited when we got him back. There's a bit of thing from me that said maybe we should stop relying on ex-players, but I loved Aaron Hayden, and I was so happy for him to come back. And since he came back, he's been absolutely awful, dreadful. I think there's a little bit more ego about him. I think you get the impression that instead of the kid we had the first time round that would take responsibility, he kind of blames other people a bit more. And the mistakes he makes are terrible. He's not as fast as he once was. He's not, one of his only redeeming qualities since he came back has been his aerial ability, and today he struggled with that as well. He lost almost every header. The positioning of the two centre-backs was terrible, and I just think, okay, yes, I think Morgan Feeney was potentially meant to be part of that back line, and we haven't been able to play him because of injury. But you've got Mugabe on the bench, a full international, who's played at a much higher level than this. And I understand he didn't play well in the one pre-season friendly he had, but you've got Aaron Hayden here who's not playing well in any of the games he's in at all, and didn't play well in pre-season. Why are we so reluctant to start Mugabe? And at first I thought it was a fitness thing. But if you can't start Feeney and you can't start Mugabe, you need to get somebody else in, because that back line is not the one. It's really not. And I mean both centre-backs. Even if Mugabe and Feeney are the long-term centre-backs that you want to go forward with this season, and you're kind of just playing Hayden and Thomas as backups to the two. I don't think this is the case, by the way, because if this was the case, you wouldn't give the captain's armband to Terrell Thomas. But let's just say that Hughes' intention going into this season was Feeney and Mugabe. You need better backups. You need better backups, because I don't even think they're very good squad options. You can't rely on them. The rest of the team seems to not have any trust in them whatsoever, and rightfully so. They've both been terrible since we signed them. They're both players we signed from a higher level on the way down in their career, and I think we need to get shot at the pair of them, especially after today. I thought that was horrible today. Absolutely horrendous. It was so demoralising, not just from fans' point of view, but I can imagine from the players' point of view. Can you imagine if you're Georgie Kelly or you're Regan Linney today? You've had a fantastic game, you've looked dangerous all through the 90 minutes, you've scored 2 goals, one of them being one of the goals of your career, and you can't be happy about it because 2 idiots in the back line have let you down. And that's what's happened. I would be absolutely furious, and I hope there was arguments in that dressing room today, because look, if we go into the season, if we go through the season with those 2 as our 2 starting centre-backs, you can forget any talks of promotion, because it won't happen. They're both just not good enough. And it's hard to say, because both are players that I've liked at a certain point in their career, but not just based on today, but based on last season and today. And also Woking, because, Aaron Hayden's never really sparked me with much confidence. I just don't think you can go into the rest of the season with those 2 as your centre-backs. It just won't happen. If we're going for the title, which was what the intention was going at this season, what a lot of people are touting us for, and what the bookies certainly think we're going for, you can get 90 points. You can get 95 points and not go up in this league. York did it last year. If you think we're going to get anywhere near 90 points, if you're going to get to that 90-point mark, which I don't think we've ever done in our entire history as a club, ever reached that point. You can't be dropping points when you're 3-1 up. You can't have as many defensive mistakes as that backline had today. You can't have that and get to 90 points. They might be good enough to get you into a mid-table finish. They're definitely good enough to keep you up in this league, but the standard has to be, we need to be winning those games. If you dominate the team and you concede a really good goal, a 1-0 goal, and it just isn't your day, then that's fine. We're not going to go unbeaten this season. We're not going to get a 100% win rate throughout the season. I understand that. But in games where you're 3-1 up, you can't be losing those games and still be expecting to go on and get promoted, because it just won't happen. And something needs to change very drastically, and something should have changed already. We shouldn't be in this position where we're starting the season underprepared. We've had pre-season. Best case scenario, you get your players in before pre-season. We're in the worst case scenario where you're buying players after the transfer, kind of after the season's already started. If we're even buying players, because Hughes doesn't seem to think we are. But I just think we can't go through this season with those 2 as our centre-backs, because it won't get better. I've been waiting for Aaron Hayden to get better for, this is the 2nd year now. I waited for him to get better the entirety of last season. It didn't happen. I waited for Terrell Thomas to get better all of last season. It didn't happen. So, look, they were both poor. The communication between the 2 was also a big problem, I think. They just didn't seem to communicate well at all. There was far too much one leaving it for the other, and the other not getting that. They're leaving it for each other, and it's just such a poor performance defensively. And if I'm Mark Hughes, I'd be gutted with that. If I'm the attackers today, I'd be gutted with that. So let me just say, going into this season, I think we need at least 2 more players if we're going to have a chance at that promotion spot. That one promotion spot. So if we've got any chance at the title, really. We need a defensive midfielder, a classic number 6, because I like the signing of McAdam, and I absolutely love Whelan, but neither of them are that number 6 player, I don't think. We need a number 6, a big, horrible number 6 type player. And we need another centre-back. We need at least 1 more centre-back. And possibly a left-back if Murray's not going to come in to cover for Harper, because Harper had a very poor game as well today. When we signed him, his whole thing was brilliant passing. That was meant to be his whole shtick. That's why we signed him, for his passing ability. And that was just dreadful today. And if you don't have that, well, relying on Harper's defence isn't great. If that's your redeeming quality, your defence when you can't pass, Harper's the wrong player. He doesn't give you that. But yeah, I will say there are positives to come from today. I think Linney, obviously. Armstrong, I think, when we started playing to his strengths, was good. And Georgie Kelly. I liked Georgie Kelly when he came on. It was really good to see him get a goal. But yeah, look, we shouldn't be dropping points today. Really shouldn't be dropping points today. And it feels like a loss. And it'll feel like a loss to the players. And I feel like that's more important. Something else I want to mention as well. A lot of people will make fun of Boreham Wood for the fans they brought today. There was 45 of them there. But I'd just like to say, well done to every single one of those fans that came today. And they got their reward for making such a long journey, you know, and being so outnumbered. There was 8,700 people there, and 45 of them were the away fans. It was a really odd feeling when the ground, and it was a fantastic crowd, really good from the home fans as well, might I mention. It's a really odd feeling when, because I'm used to having the away fans next to me, so I'm used to whenever we concede a goal, 400 or 500 people next to me celebrating and kind of getting it rubbed in your face a bit. Conceding a goal and then the crowd just goes silent and you can't hear anything. It almost didn't feel like we were conceding. You know, there wasn't that trigger in my mind of the away fans celebrating that usually... It's a weird mental thing. It was like, oh, it was just deflating. There was no anger, there was no passion in conceding. It was just silence across the ground. It silenced the ground 3 times. But yeah, really odd. I wonder if that's something we're going to have to get used to in this league. But yeah, look, have I been too harsh? Maybe I have been. But after that result, I don't think I can be harsh enough. And to the fans booing at full time, I've seen a lot of people say online that booing the players isn't right. You've got every single right to boo the players. You've had 3 years. This is coming into your 3rd year of disappointment. You know, you've had 2 really bad years. And if there are signs being showed that this year is going to be anything like those last 2, you've got every single right, with the owners there and the manager there, to make your voice heard and say that you're not happy with it, because I'm not happy with it. And I've got absolutely no problem with anybody that decides to voice their opinion at full time and boo the players, because after that, I think they probably deserved it. And I think if they would like to argue that they didn't deserve it, they're not the players for this club. But yeah, let me know if I've been too harsh. Let me know what you think, and let me know what you think the answer is in the comments down below. But yeah, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and in a bit.